morning. So, still waking up a little bit. Played a gig last night. I'm a musician. So, that's always exciting. I got home in plenty of time, but it's always gets all that adrenaline afterwards. So, hope everybody slept well, or if or if you're in a different time zone, I hope your day's going good. Or if you're sleeping right now, I hope you're sleeping well. Whichever time zone you're in. So let's see what the universe has for us this morning. So we listen to the cards because it reminds us to take a breath. We take a breath and it reminds us to let our shoulders relax. We just think about what the universe may want to show us today. Who knows? Angers or resentments that might pop up today. Somebody might say something and maybe we can touch on it a little bit with a little meditation this morning and maybe react a little bit differently and surprise people. Who knows? So, and good morning, Tessa. Let's go to here. Let's see what we have. So I'm going to do my 3-in-1. I'm going to lay out my pages of a book here and see what the pages have to say today. And I'm going to do the stream of consciousness thing as I normally do, and I'll flip over each page one at a time. And I'll think maybe I know where this story's going until I get to the last page, and then all of a sudden we find out the butler did it. So, let's see what we have here. We start off with the 4 of Swords. So, that is doing what we're doing now. We're just letting ourselves take a rest. We're letting our minds clear. We're taking that moment in time. And here we have the Death card, 13, which is about transition. So far it's about taking that breath before moving forward. And he's looking at where we're going. So here, would the reading be for today or the next day, you think? I think for the next 24 hours, whatever time zone somebody's in. Or something, as I always say, it's like a web. So we pull on this web and it's going to vibrate through the day. And if it's like the butterfly effect, it'll just carry on going forward because we're having this conversation and we'll always remember it. So we're interacting with the neurons in our brains. And that's going to change everything from this point forward based on the conversation, based on what card Death is looking at. Because he is a major transition card. And he's looking at the Valet of Cups. Valet de Coupe. The Page of Cups. So, this could be one of those things because swords are about mental. Swords are about thoughts, and it's a heavy suit, so it's where things can weigh us down, We're coming from the Two of Swords, where decisions have to be made, and we're it could be a little bit of clashing ideas, and then a third sword comes in, and there can be dissension, things like that, until finally we reach a balance with a Four of Swords. And once we reach a balance, that's when we're able to move forward. We're able to take a breath, because we can step back out of a situation. We can step back and see things maybe in ways that we couldn't before. Maybe in ways that, as we can see here, Death is looking forward through the transition. And so by taking that breath, looking through the breath, we take a look at what's going on, all the things around us, because there's so much going on in the world right now, and there's so much that's going on in our lives. And we take a breath, and the breath can clear that mirror. And it's showing that taking that breath, we can find something positive. The Page of Cups is all about that positive. It's all about that moving on to something new, allowing yourself to become fresh again. It's not an easy thing to do. But if we can take that breath and we can step back. This flower here is almost like it's laying in a bed taking a rest. And it's kind of what we need to do. We need to just go into ourselves. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to transition and move forward. Especially when all the news of the world and everything is just wrapped around us. But this card is saying that it's important, because it is a major card. It's a trump card. And so when trump cards pop up, and particularly I find when they're in the middle, because it's a balance. It's almost like a scale. That the transition, the allowing ourselves to be good to ourselves, to allow ourselves to move and see things in a different way. The same way this kid is looking in this cup. He is fascinated, and cups are all about emotions and feelings. And he is fascinated by this cup, right? Oh. And I'm just going to say, good morning, and yes. Yes, it's important to move forward. Take that breath. So we still have one card left, though. And that's the interesting part. So again, this is like a book. We see what the pages say, and it's a good linear process. Talk about balancing things out. So here we have the 11 card, which is strength. And by strength is not how strong we are physically. Strength is that internal strength. It's that being able to reach inside ourselves to find that inner reserve that we have. And some cat owners say it's the internal strength to be able to get your cat to open its mouth long enough to take a pill. That's not easy to do, but she's able to do that, and it's not because she's so it's about the internal strength. So here, this just makes absolute sense, especially the way things are going right now in the world, or in my life, or in some other people's lives that I know. It's so hard to break free and take that moment to take a much. Last night I got to be a little kid. So for 2.5 hours I played guitar I sang, I laughed, I joked. Almost everybody in the bar that I was playing at was friends of mine. I knew they actually came to see me because they are my friends. It's not a big place. But I just played. I mean, they call it playing for a reason, right? So it's not easy sometimes when we are wrapped up in our own thoughts to allow ourselves to be kids again, to go out and find a toy and play with it and take, meet up with our friends and stuff like that. But this is showing how important, the less we feel like we can do that right now. If you're a CEO of a company, who can feel like they can go out and just play in a sandbox, right? But it's important to allow ourselves to do that sometimes. We may feel silly, we may feel whatever, like we don't have the time. And this is where this comes in. It's one of those things where nobody can make us take care of ourselves. People can suggest it, they can yell at us, they can throw things at us. But if we're not going to stop and just take a breath and take care of ourselves, nothing anybody says is going to stop it. We're just not going to. We're going to be serious and do what we need to do. So allowing ourselves to take that moment sometimes takes every ounce of reserve we have. To just simply go for a walk can be almost impossible when we're stuck in our heads. But death shows. This card has always fascinated people because it shows the common people and it shows kings. That transition happens one way or the other. Time waits for no man is the saying. Time waits for no person. But take a look at this card and just try and tap into that inner child, that self. And this person is standing on a barren ground, nothing around him. He's got a cup, and that cup means all the world to him. He's so content with one silly little cup. And yet we can have the... So today, let's take a breath. Let's let this chapter that's going on in the world slip by at least a little bit. Maybe it's chapter part 2. Maybe just walk outside and look for the magic in the ordinary. Don't look for anything spectacular or anything like that. Just look for the magic in the ordinary. And allow ourselves to relax and maybe enjoy ourselves a little bit. Maybe try and act like a kid. God knows it's not easy to allow ourselves to do it, but we can find the strength. So with that, thank you again. It was tough for me to get up this morning. I had to put my camera and everything back together again. And I really, for the first time, and I don't know how long, thought about, maybe I just won't do it today. But I did this, I grabbed the fortitude, came in here, and I'm always glad when I do it. It's funny. We don't think about it beforehand, but we're always glad afterwards. We say, boy, I'm glad I did that. But it always follows after, I really didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to do that. Boy, I'm glad I did that. Think of it that way. So have an amazing day. Have an amazing rest of the week. And thank you all again. you.